The Endless Golf Podcast, brought to you by Toyota.
And welcome to another edition of the Endless Golf Podcast presented by Toyota. Joining me is an old friend of mine and legendary lacrosse player and coach, Dave Cottle. And Dave, it's great to have you on the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me, Bob. It's always a pleasure. I won't make the golf telecast any other way, but we can talk about sports.
Well, it's funny. I asked you probably several months ago about getting on the podcast and talking about your career because you've had a great career in lacrosse. But one of the things you've taken up over the past few years is golf. And one of the things I can say, being around you and playing some golf with you, you have just as much passion for golf as you do for lacrosse and other sports. And you know, I gotta mention, Dave, we met each other back at Salisbury when I was a freshman. You were a grad assistant, and we met on the basketball court.
Yeah.
And it was pretty amazing. But golf has been a big part of your life in the last few years, and you've really taken a love for the game.
Yeah, it's an opportunity for us to be with guys that we used to play with and play against, and you know, it's a competitive situation with good people. And when you get to be at my age, you know, there's not much left to compete in, and golf's one of them.
It really is one of them. You have a really good time, but the competition, it really gets your heart beating, and the motivation to play well, especially amongst guys like us who've known each other for a long time. Get out on the golf course, and there's always a grudge to be held out there a little bit, and you always want to beat your friends. That's for sure. But Dave, let's go back a little bit and talk about your lacrosse career. And really, it's kind of amazing because you went to Northern High School in Baltimore City, and back in the early 70s, lacrosse wasn't big in the city schools. It was more of a private school kind of game. And what made you take up lacrosse? I know you played basketball as well and then football, but lacrosse became the big part of your life.
Well, I played baseball my 10th grade year, and the football coach I played football was Lon Russ. He was also the lacrosse coach. And he said, if you want to play quarterback on my football team, you're going to play lacrosse. So I dropped baseball after 10th grade. We actually won the 10th grade championship, or JV championship in baseball at Northern, and I went to lacrosse for 11th and 12th grade.
Well, there again, a great coach who gives you great advice, and it certainly was. It's amazing. You had a good career there, learned the game of lacrosse. That was really the first time you picked up a lacrosse stick then.
Yeah, we had guys in our neighborhood, Mike and Frank Perella, and Buzzy Driscoll. They kind of taught me how to play catch, and it was the first year I played was the first year of the plastic stick, because the wooden sticks were tough to handle. But I played in the first plastic stick era.
Well, that means you're not that old then, if you didn't play in the old wooden sticks. But what a great game and what a great career you had from there. You went on to Salisbury State College in the early 70s and mid-70s. And in 1975, you set the Division III scoring record. You scored over 100 goals. And from a guy who really didn't play lacrosse and barely played in high school to setting the scoring record at Salisbury, what brought you to Salisbury State College?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I only visited one school, and that was Salisbury. And Andy Jones at the time was starting a program, and then 74 was the first year of the program. I graduated from high school in 73. First year of the program, and he brought about 40 misfits down, and we all got together, and he built a program. And he was the guy. East Carolina was a place I looked at, and almost went there, and they wound up dropping the program, so I made the right decision there. And but Andy was the guy. He was the motivating factor.
It's really amazing. He certainly is a great gentleman, and still a friend of yours to this day, I know. And one of the amazing things about our experience at Salisbury was the people that were there. The guys you played with on the lacrosse team, and I played baseball there, and again, I met you when I was a freshman, and you were a grad assistant, but we became friends. You became like a big brother to me, along with another guy that we all know very well, Steve Pappas from the Green Turtle. You guys, we played a lot of basketball in Mag's gym with the Jarris brothers, Eddie Bailey, Alan Hogue, just a number of guys. They were wrestlers. There were football players in there that played, and then lacrosse players and baseball players. And they were just guys that loved to compete. And I think the guy that brought us all together in my early years was Coach McGlinchey.
With no question. We all wanted to show up to play basketball, and we all wanted to get picked by Mike to play on his team. And I can remember a bunch of wrestlers, baseball players, and lacrosse players. We used to play the basketball team. And it was more important to us than it was to them, and we competed. And there were many a time that we walked off the court beating the basketball team.
No doubt. I mean, we had some memorable games at Mag's Gym for sure in the afternoons. The wrestlers would play basketball, and then they would go to wrestling practice. So a lot of memories for sure, Dave. And I tell you, from there, you're at Salisbury. You had a great career there, as I mentioned, a scoring record in your sophomore year. You become a grad assistant. What drew you to coaching?
Lon Russ, my high school coach. He was, I had my dad, but Lon Russ was a father figure to myself and another 50 or 60 kids every year. And he was a guy, and I knew when I was in high school that I was going to be a phys ed major and I wanted to be a coach. And the credit goes to him.
And you spent 1 year as a grad assistant at Salisbury, correct?
I actually spent two.
Two, okay.
Two, because I did my student teaching the first year and a grad assistant the next year. And, we were lucky. We had Dr. Crawford was our president. He was so involved in all sports and more importantly, he was involved with the student athletes, and he loved them. And he came to every game and he yelled at the refs. And it was a great environment at Salisbury for a school that was trying to find its way. We went from my first year there, they had 900 students. The next year they had 3,000, and they were finding their way as an institution as we were finding our way as young adolescents.
Well, Dave, I know you'll be shocked when I tell you this, and you already know this part of the story for me. I don't know how it was for you, but I wasn't a great student in high school. I was a pretty good athlete. I came to Salisbury to play baseball, and I had trouble getting in there. And one of the things that drew me to Salisbury, I could go to school there, but the location and the experience there was a lot of guys with similar stories to me. We weren't the best students in the world. We were blue collar guys. It was a great place and a great fit for us.
100%. And, as an institution, it's we wouldn't have got into it now like we got into it then. They've really done a good job improving the academic standards. But at the same time, there was a place for us. And once we got there, it felt like home. And I rooted for the baseball team. I rooted for wrestling. I rooted for football. We all supported each other, and it was a really good time.
It certainly was, Dave. We move on from Salisbury State College, now Salisbury University, to your first coaching job, and that was in high school at the Severance School, and that must have been a pretty good experience for you as well.
It was. I was very fortunate. They came down and offered me the position while I was coaching at Salisbury, and I was a head basketball, assistant football, head lacrosse coach. So I coached and I taught 6th, 7th, and 8th grade phys ed and 9th grade health. And I was very fortunate. They had a really good group of athletes during that period. And we won the football championship. We won back-to-back lacrosse championships. Basketball, we struggled a little bit. We had 9 wins, I think, which at that time was one of their record wins. But it was a great experience. I learned a lot about coaching when I was there.
And then, Dave, from the Severance School, you go to Loyola College, and a little bit different experience from Annapolis to Baltimore City. And you spent a lot of years at Loyola and really developed that program.
Well, when I got there 2 years before, they had lost 31-3 to Washington College. And we had I always felt it was a place that had great potential. It was located in Baltimore, and the first thing we had to do was get local guys to come. And I think in like my 3rd or 4th year, we got 8 Calvert Hall kids to come, and those 8 Calvert Hall kids were the group that took us to the NCAA playoffs, and we wound up going to the Final Four in 1990 when they were juniors. And so it was, great experience. And, Loyola was a great place. A small school, the great thing about it is the people. And I was very fortunate to have a president of the school named Father Joe Selinger, who was an incredible man and an incredible leader. And he wanted to be good in lacrosse. And I can remember when I interviewed for the position, he goes, "My goal is to have you beat Hopkins." And I said,
he did.
We did, but I said, they got 6 full-time coaches. You got 1 part-time coach. So we're going to have to put some money behind it, and he was willing to do that. Great people like Tom Shine. And the first year we played Hopkins, we lost in 1993, but in 1994 we played Hopkins at Loyola, and the Charles Street Massacre no longer happened. We beat them.
Well, that's an amazing story, and I guess that was your first stint at recruiting as well, because obviously being a great coach, and you've got that fire, and you've got that passion, and the competitiveness, and you were not going to go away and be a coach who just was going to be mediocre. You had to go out and find some good players. Talk about the first time your recruiting experience.
Well, when you first started, the guys we were recruiting at the beginning, they couldn't play for us by the 4th class in. And so, I can remember meeting with a high school coach, and he goes, "You guys got to get in a league. so you can have a chance to win something. I said, win something? We're going to win the national championship. And, and we didn't win the national championship, but we wound up playing for the national championship against a very good 1990 Syracuse team. But, Loyola was an easy place to sell. It was, at that time, it was the only small school that really lacrosse was important to them, and they were we competed against Virginia, North Carolina, Maryland, and all those schools. And they had to recruit against each other. We just had to recruit as a small school.
In those years at Loyola, you had some great players, and you played against many great players. Give us a little idea of some of the players that you coached, as well as some of you competed against.
Well, in college, there was Paul Canabine, who's the head coach at Stevenson University. He is, is one of the all-time leading face-off guys. We went up to Rochester to recruit him. I thought he was going to Syracuse, and we wound up getting him. He was a phenomenal player. Mark Fry, who played 4 years of lacrosse at Loyola and then wound up playing in the Canadian Football League. He was such an incredible athlete. And then probably the best story was I went and saw a soccer goalie named Zach Thornton from Essex Community College. He was 6'4", 220 pounds, and I told our soccer coach, I said, I just saw the best soccer goalie I've ever seen. He goes, well, I don't need one. I said, well, you need this one. And he wound up making the under-23 world soccer team, traveled with the USA, and he was a first-team All-American lacrosse player, playing 2 sports in college.
Wow, that's one of the ways that you get good, is you get good players for sure. And then moving from Loyola College to the University of Maryland in the ACC, now you're at a big school, a totally different experience.
First year at Maryland, they made it to the Final Four in basketball, Gary Williams, and the next year they won the national championship, and that was the same year that Ralph Friedgen came into Maryland football, and they went to the Orange Bowl and played Florida in the Orange Bowl. So I wanted to try big-time sports. We were the anchor sport at Loyola, and I thought there would be more to it with bigger sports, and it was. Maryland basketball helped us. Gary helped us tremendously by recruiting. Ralph helped us by the use of his facilities, and Maryland was a good time. I had some really good players at Maryland and some really nice people that are grown up to be outstanding young men.
It's kind of amazing when you're talking about Ralph Friedgen and Gary Williams, two legendary coaches at the University of Maryland. You got to spend time with them, and I'm sure you learned a lot from those guys.
I used to go to Gary's practices all the time, and he would let all coaches come. And he also spoke to our team on numerous occasions. Gary was great for all the other programs, and you can learn a lot from guys like that.
I think that's one of the great things about coaching is, you can't have an ego like that. You've got to be willing to learn and listen to other people's ideas. Sometimes coaches get caught up in their scheme and their ideas, but being around other coaches is certainly a big part of the learning experience as you grow as a coach.
Well, one of the things I can remember going to Gary's practice before they played Duke, and the three-point shot was in there, and Gary would put the week of Duke, because Duke was a great three-point shooting team, he would put a tape 1.5 feet outside the three-point. And so all week they practiced defending out to the tape rather than the three-point shot. And that's why Gary always had a great success. He understood who he was playing at Duke.
The Endless Golf Podcast with Dave Cottle will be back after this message.
I love a good adventure, and my friends and family do too. So we all drive Toyotas. Tacomas for my rugged buds, and Corollas for my city crew. And I drive a RAV4 that I take camping, shopping, and basically everywhere else. We all picked our Toyotas because they're reliable and efficient and have amazing resale value, saving us money now and down the road. So we can make every day an adventure. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals and inventory. Toyota, let's go places.
And then, Dave, from the University of Maryland to the Professional Lacrosse League and the Chesapeake Bayhawks. And I imagine there you went from just being a coach to learning more of the business side there, even though you started out as the coach and then eventually became the coach and general manager.
Yeah, my first year, Brendan called me at the end of 2011. Would I come out and help him for his championship run in the MLL? And so I did. And that was 2011. I was an assistant coach then. I was assistant coach that whole year, and then I became the head coach in 12 and 13, and then it wound up. as a college coach, you're used to fixing things Monday through Friday and playing on Saturday. In the pro league, you play on Saturday and you don't see them again until the following Friday. So that was a transition phase, trying to fix things and how you fix things. But again,
And you had to coach different.
and you had to treat them different. And the good thing is we had an owner, Brennan, who loved the players and treated them great, and the players played really hard for us, and we were very successful. I think in the 7 years or 8 years that I was with the Bayhawks, we won 4 championships.
It's pretty good. It's a pretty good winning percentage, that's for sure. And it was a great league. A lot of great players came through there. And I imagine one of the things about the Bayhawks experience was you knew all the players. You knew the players you coach either with them or against them through your career in college coaching.
Well, it really helped me in the draft. I really knew who the good players were, where a lot of these other guys get to see bits and pieces. I had lived that life and got to do some. And in fact, a couple of our drafts in 15 and 16 were so outstanding that I bet you we had 8 or 9 all-pros in that draft. A lot of Maryland kids. It was when Maryland started to get good again, and John did a good job with them. And then the business end was the sponsorship end, and we started running events. We started in a tournament called Naptown. And in the second year, I think we had 150 teams, that would come there, and then we used 2,600 hotel rooms.
Wow.
With the families and everything like that. So learning the business end and the sponsorship end was a change.
Well, you actually started getting into the camps back when you were at Loyola, and that really grew. I mean, if you're a mom or dad out there watching and you have kids that are involved in athletics, whether it's baseball, football, basketball, lacrosse, doesn't matter what it is, there's so many camps where kids can learn how to play the game correctly. It's like getting golf lessons. And it really was a big part of what you did throughout your career.
Well, we started our camps at Loyola to get kids to know who Loyola was. And so we started, they had no camps. We did evening camps with Bobby Shriver, the MIA, Boys Latin. And so the second year, I think we had 300 kids. And then we started doing overnight camps, and some of those players that Jerry Case, who went to Loyola, some of the really good players that committed to Loyola were coming to our overnight camp.
Well, Dave, we certainly chronicled your career, and what a great career it's been. And, whether the start in high school at Northern High School in Baltimore City to Salisbury State College back then, to Severn, to Loyola College, then to the University of Maryland, the Chesapeake Bayhawks. It's been a great journey for sure. And your journey is not over, my friend. You've been staying in touch with a lot of people through lacrosse over the last few years. You still had camps. You've done some mentoring. You've done some coaching at some local high schools here in South Florida. And now we're going to announce that you have a new position at the Naval Academy. How excited are you to be part of the Naval Academy?
Well, that's an unbelievable institution with unbelievable kids and a great coaching staff. They wound up losing a coach really late in the season to lose one, and I don't blame him for taking the job he wants. But I'm going to wind up being the offensive coordinator at Navy and help Coach Joe Amplo and his staff. And I'm looking forward to working with him. I got, 5 months where I'm going to just hustle my tail off for him and try to do everything I can to help Navy have the best season they could possibly have.
And I know you have a relationship with Joe. You've known him for a very long time. And you also have a relationship with a number of coaches on the staff as well as some of the players.
Yeah, John Orson played for the Chesapeake Bayhawks for a while. Mark Goers is the director of operations at Navy Lacrosse, and Mark was an assistant coach on the Bayhawks. And Blake Miller actually played for the Bayhawks. So there's a group of guys there that I do have a relationship with, and I'm very fortunate. I mean, they're class people, and I probably have 9 or 10 kids that play for Navy Lacrosse that I have coached one time or another. So I do have an idea what these kids are like, and I'm looking forward to seeing how we can help them get to where they want to be.
Well, I can only imagine the experience and that you'll add to the staff, and also the knowledge and your competitiveness as well. It's going to be a big part of what they do this spring. So go Navy for sure. All the best of luck to you, Dave Cottle, and thanks for spending time with me here on the Endless Golf Podcast presented by Toyota. Always great spending time with you.
Thank you, Bob.
All right. We'll see you next time. So long, everybody.
The Endless Golf Podcast has been brought to you by Toyota.